together, and especially for farmers. And in that respect, everyone earns. But, Honorable Speaker, we need to understand that the economies across the world, including Kenya and the other developing countries in the global south, and even the developed, has gone through stages and are going through stages. And the stage number one, which is usually basic, is agrarian. The second one is manufacturing. And the last one being what the general world is experiencing now around technology and information, Honorable Speaker. In one of the definitions of what constitutes a developed country, Honorable Speaker, it is actually a paradox. This sounds like a paradox. That in the definition of a developed country, one of the parameters is for the agri side of the business, of the economy, the primary side of the business, and especially agriculture, to be actually less than 10% of the entire GDP. This sounds like a paradox, that even when we promote agriculture in a developing country like Kenya, one of the parameters of measuring that a country has actually developed is when we diminish the composition of agriculture in the wholesome economy, Honorable Speaker. And that happens because of many reasons. As you know, agriculture is based on something we call diminishing returns. In a country like Kenya, what we do is that we till land first where it is evidently productive. After tilling land where it is evidently productive and requires only rain-fed, which is rain-fed, Honorable Speaker, we then go to other areas that may need mechanization, may need irrigation, may need much more inputs. So what that does is that the side, Honorable Speaker, the agriculture side of the economy, Honorable Speaker, then continues to diminish in returns the more you expand production, the diminishing return way of primary production and agriculture, Honorable Speaker. And when you compare the same with manufacturing, manufacturing is hedged on what we call increasing return to scale. So that after you produce the first product, any other succeeding products are produced with much lower cost. And that is why most of the developed countries, Honorable Speaker, including a country like South Korea, a country like Japan, even the US and the UK, there is no economy anywhere in the world that became a developed country on the basis of agriculture. Agriculture has to always transition into manufacturing, Honorable Speaker, and for many reasons. Any business you do around agriculture is based on market prices because the produce from agriculture has no differentiation. When you talk about a mango produced in Kenya or maize produced in Kenya, you can't differentiate those products from any other produced elsewhere. And therefore, the farmers and the producers are always the slaves of the market prices. And there is nothing you can do about it. Commodity prices are driven by market prices. But when you come to manufacturing, what economies do, you can have an economy producing cars, but differentiating that car from the other may actually be the basis at which prices are varied. And therefore, you can end up increasing whatever return you get from manufacturing of cars, Honorable Speaker, by just doing price differentiation. The second thing, Honorable Speaker, and I've talked about it earlier, when you engage in production that is based on increasing return, that by itself is a catalyst for you to produce more. And Honorable Speaker, therefore, what usually happens, there is a basis of mechanizing manufacturing in terms of increasing production, which also diminishes cost and also enlarges the return, by itself becomes or creates a virtuous cycle within the economy. But when you really engage so much in primary production, it creates a vicious cycle where you have to depend on seasons, you have to depend on the weather which you have no control over, you have to also depend on market prices, which you are actually made a price taker, not a price maker as a producer, which is not a very good thing. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, where the world is going, and we can only leapfrog as Africa, we can only jump some of these processes, Honorable Speaker, because we are more or less an agrarian economy as Africa. We may have to leapfrog or jump a stage of manufacturing to now catch up with the other world, which is now currently in tech, and especially tech around big data and also AI. And Honorable Speaker, we have no choice other than to do that. Because yes, we need food security guaranteed through agriculture, but in terms of increasing productivity per person, you cannot increase productivity per person if you do not depart from primary production. And Honorable Speaker, just to put it into context, currently the composition of the Kenyan GDP, agriculture constitutes around 18%. Agriculture including fisheries and forestry, what we call primary production. Manufacturing, which also now includes logistics around manufacturing, constitutes just around 17%. 65% of our economy is actually service. But what is service? I'm trying just to demystify from the other ones I was talking about tech. And what is the paradox around it? That agriculture, which constitutes around 18%, employs 70% of the rural population. Then only one thing can be deduced from there. That if you are employing too much with so few, then productivity is too low. If so many people are engaged in an 18% segment of the GDP, then it means the 70% are earning too low. And therefore the productivity is too low. Basically because there is a limit at which you can mechanize agriculture. And there is a limit at which you can do increasing return to scale. Now, when you come to manufacturing, what do we actually call manufacturing in many economies in the global south? What we call manufacturing is actually agriculture value addition. Agriculture value addition meaning whatever we call manufacturing in Kenya, a bigger proportion is what adds value to what we get out of primary production. Honorable Speaker, even within manufacturing itself, we need to scale to higher levels of manufacturing. Higher levels including machinery, including higher level that requires more technology. Again, in that level, where do we play as an economy? We only play around assembly. Many times you confuse manufacturing and assembly. When you have a vehicle being assembled in Kenya, that does not constitute and cannot pass as manufacturing, Honorable Speaker. Manufacturing should go into components. Whatever you are assembling, where are they coming from, Honorable Speaker? And also, going back to the same primary production, whatever you produce in primary production, and you sell it in that form, what you actually do is you are exporting to, Honorable Speaker. When you produce minerals, when you produce fisheries resources, when you produce forestry resources, and when you produce agricultural resources in raw form, and then you hand them over through export to another economy, Honorable Speaker, you are handing over increasing returns, you are handing over more productive jobs, you are handing over taxes, which would have been derived if that was done around, Honorable Speaker, and therefore you are actually handing over what is more productive in the entire value chain, Honorable Speaker. So we need to also move, that is the point I wanted to make, that even beyond primary production and manufacturing, we need now to move on the side of tech, which could be found around mostly the service industry. So that even within the service industry, which is dominant in our economy, Honorable Speaker, we move from the low-paying service industry cadre. We now scale up to what has more productivity. Because whatever we call, Honorable Speaker, a service in Kenya is more in terms of hospitality, in terms of retail and wholesale, in terms of logistics, Honorable Speaker, transportation, and the rest. But Honorable Speaker, if you look at the productivity there, because mechanization is low, productivity per person is also low. In a lump sum, Honorable Speaker, we need, even if we talk about agriculture, even if we talk about this bill, we also have to think about manufacturing, and also we have to think about the modern economy, which is now tech around big data and AI, but also without forgetting that manufacturing is the one that actually creates jobs in scale. If there was more time, Honorable Speaker, I would have given more points around even the inequalities that could be created by dominant